What's up, guys? Welcome to the OYL podcast, episode 18. If it falls there in the production schedule, but might be one more, one less. We'll see. But this is going to be awesome. We are here with our friend, Joe.
Hi.
What's up, man? Hey, excited to have Joe here. Joe has a great story, so we're going to talk about that, but he's also just a cool dude. So excited to have him here and chat. Go ahead, make sure you like, subscribe if you're here on the YouTubes or if you're on Spotify or Apple. It just helps us out, helps these stories get out. So if you can do that, that would be great. Now, Joe's here with us today. Thanks for coming, Joe. We had fun getting the audio set up today. It was a little fun. Overall, though, Joe has had a pretty cool journey in the past few months at the gym. And we just want to talk about it. Like we have posted quite a few clips or excerpts, but today we're going to talk about it a lot, you know. So, Joe, man, first question is like just tell us a little bit about yourself, like who you are, what you do. Just give us some insight.
Well, married, we're getting close to 20 years of marriage. Have a daughter who's in her senior year in high school.
That's awesome. I'm at 2.5 years, so like when I hear that, I'm like, I'm next.
So now you're thinking about college and everything else. Pretty simple guy. I have a good home life. I like to go home, just be with my family. Something people don't know about me, I'm guilty for sitting at home and watching Star Trek reruns over and over and over and over again.
There's a word for that. You're a Trekkie.
I am. I'm the worst of both worlds because there'll be Star Wars in there too. So
Oh wow!
we're not supposed to get along.
I was about to say, man, there's some boundaries for that.
There is. I work for Sherwin-Williams in the automotive division, not the house paint. And I work with small business owners and some of the larger corporations on everything from our manufacturing process to the warehouses to the inventory to working on the street sales calls to being in a spray booth painting with a painter. And that's pretty much the highlights.
And taking emergency calls in Arkansas.
And taking emergency calls in Arkansas. It is a traveling job. Louisiana, Arkansas, a good chunk of Texas, and some of Oklahoma.
Guys, I was talking to Joe one day, and he was like, yeah, he's like, I got to go to Arkansas to take care of this. And he's like, but I'll be back for 9 o'clock. I said, yeah. He's like, yeah, I'm going to leave at 3 a.m.
That's right.
So I can make it to the 9 o'clock class. I was like, let's go, man. So cool. Big thing, you know, we want to talk about. I want you to talk about, because I met Joe, what month did we sit down for the first time?
March.
It was March, okay. But he had made some changes prior, but I want you to kind of dive into like what your state of health was even before you made those first changes. I think it was like you said November, December prior of 2022.
Right.
Yeah, but what was life like at that point, like prior to that?
That's, for basically since I got out of the Marines.
When did you get out of the Marines?
And I got out of the Marines in 2000.
But you're still a Marine.
I'm still a Marine. Once a
Always.
Marine, always a Marine.
But yeah, 2000.
That's when I started to really get lazy.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been a slow progression in the wrong direction with a lot of ups and downs. That progression got at its low. I mean, really at its low in November. And we had come back from a family trip. I was winded, couldn't really swim. It just didn't feel good. And I got comfortable with just being unhealthy. And I got accepting of the consequences of those decisions. But I really kind of hit that low. And I started to say, I got to do something about this. I've tried in the past. I've actually had some successes, gotten healthy, hit the gym, lost the weight, downhill again. Get back on track, downhill again. And there was no sustainability. And I said, I'm going to try one more time. I'm going to go for it. It was in December is when I finally decided to make that change. And it was a friend who I told her about it. I said, I'm talking about it. I want to do this. I just don't feel good. I don't have energy. I'm not there for my daughter the way I want to be. I know my wife is worried about my health. And I said, I'm going to do it January 1st, New Year's resolution. And you found to know this about me. Don't tell me I can't do something. or put a
True.
negative. And she looked at me and said, don't even bother, you're going to fail. And I couldn't believe it. I said, no, I'm going to do this. When I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. And she goes, well, if you're going to do it, you do it today. You start right now. If you can't start right now, don't start, or you're just going to fail again. And I said, well, if I'm going to start right now and you're going to be on me about it, you're going to hold me accountable. So we had an agreement, and I went and bought a scale. I brought it to her place of business, and we had every Sunday I had to come in, I had to weigh in,
Mm-hmm.
and she was going to have me accountable, and she was going to see if I was staying on track.
Mm-hmm.
And what prompted it all was the doctors were talking about putting on more medication from the prior.
Yeah.
And
You mean like you were taking something for something and they're like, we're going to have to increase your dose because it's not regulating properly?
so I've been through a lot of them.
Mm-hmm.
And it started off low dosage, but it was from blood pressure to one to help me with cholesterol,
Mm-hmm.
to statin, to stronger blood pressures, to stronger cholesterols. And this is an ongoing progression. Well, at that point, after that doctor's visit, already on 2 cholesterol meds, already on the max you can do for blood pressure, and none of it working. He wanted to up more, put me on a second blood pressure, and put me on a third cholesterol. And it just, it's like, I can't do this. I can't do this. And that's what really started to also put me down that path.
And real quick, that's common. So like when you have the clinical treatment of some of these symptoms, but you're just treating the symptom, that's the thing that's being measured. It starts to raise. So then we increase dosage, or we realize the medication is not taking effect. So we switch medications, but it's just focused on that thing, whether it be blood pressure, the cholesterol measurement, whatever we're using, for measurement. But it's like, oh yeah, let's just use this thing to change this one thing.
Oh, yeah.
And that's actually, I know Joe shares that. I'm sure that's going to resonate with a lot of people because that's actually kind of common.
Probably more than I know.
Mm-hmm.
I have friends that do it, and I'm listening to the stuff. Well, your dad has it, your grandfather has it, your family members have it. It's hereditary, and now that you're on this medicine, you're never going to get off of it. And but it just wasn't fixing it.
Mm-hmm.
And you start to get worried about it. Probably should have gotten worried about it way sooner than that. At least I know I should have. But it really was the driving force for me to start. And then having a friend in the corner, the family in the background, and started that domino, started that effect. And so December 5th, right on the spot, right after that conversation, I said, okay, the diet starts today. And I started to do exactly what I did before. Let's do the insanity. Let's do the same thing all over again and produce the same result that didn't work before. And that was...
Well, it got you some results in terms of, but it's
did.
the same thing with like the medication, right? The medication can bring your blood pressure down a little bit.
Right.
So and you'll tell people here in a second, but you did get something.
Yes.
But it's also the thing that you stopped doing at some point.
Yep.
And yeah.
So I started counting calories.
Mm-hmm.
All right, here we go. And I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to go ahead and get on all this healthy stuff. I'm going to eat egg whites. I'm going to eat processed cereals. I'm going to eat,
Heart healthy.
Yeah. Hey, it's got the heart on the box.
Exactly.
It's going to work, right? I'm going to eat oatmeal every day. That's going to do it. 40 grams of sugar in there, but hey, it's going to help. So I started to count calories, and I started to do lean cuisine and some of the other stuff. And the weight did start to come off. I don't mind the numbers. When I started this thing, I was a little under 240 pounds. I got to about 195 pounds. But as I started to get closer to 200, it would go up a little. It would go down. And then I would get on the scale at home and I would go up, and I wouldn't go in for my check-in that week from my accountability partner. Because I'm like, oh no, this ain't going to be good. I started to plateau. I started to run into the same problems as I did before. So I felt good. I lost weight. I was getting more energy. I said, I've got to do something different. I've got to do something more. And that's when I started to look at gyms, because February is when it really started to get difficult. I started to incorporate some exercise for a month. I started to get back on track, and I said, that's what I got to do.
Mm-hmm.
I've got to get back to exercising and exercising regularly. And I walked in your front door.
And when you met us, I mean, how much weight had you lost though when you walked into the door? What was it, like
Well, we
30
weighed in that
pounds?
day. It was about 295. So you're talking almost 40 pounds.
Yeah, and I want people to know, like, that's a big deal,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so we joke around about how it was done or whatever. I mean, true disclosure, when I first started really getting into health and fitness, like, I was eating Wheaties, like I was eating cereal, and so it's like where we sit now, we know we have different information, but the truth is, like, without much new information, we were just following what the information that had been given to us told us was healthy, and he was reducing the amount of food intake, which reduces the amount of energy your body has available. So it has to do something. So he did move the needle. And then you came into the gym. Why did you, so I've never asked you this question. I don't know, but like, did you just Google us, or like, what made you want to come to the gym?
So I did the traditional gym.
Mm-hmm.
I'd go in there and, all right, I'm going to hit the treadmill. I'm going to hit all these machines for cardio. And you get burned out on that. At least I got burned out on that. And so I said, I'm just going to Google gym, Hazlitt, see what comes up, and then check them all out. I'm going to try different things. I tried Orange Theory, and I tried a couple other things. And I saw this CrossFit thing. And I remember saying to you, I said, I don't even know what CrossFit is. I said, but I'll go in, because I was looking for the knowledge and to try something different than I did before, because I didn't want to go back to what I did in the past and fall into the same trap. I can Google things, like you said, and I can do what is believed to be the right things. But if you're not an expert, you don't know what you're doing, the information you're getting is incomplete, inaccurate maybe sometimes, or it could be really bad information, but you don't know any better. So I wanted to find something where I had the support that could put me on a path to do the right thing, to fill in the gaps where I didn't know what I was doing, to educate me and break the insanity, do something different, break it up. And I remember I'll never forget my first day.
Me neither.
I tried other things, and I show up for the 6 a.m. class, and I show up early. You know that I'm always there early, and it's about 5:20, and I'm watching these 5 a.m.ers go. And on that day, they're doing pull-ups, they're doing thrusters, and they're doing burpees over bar. And I go, nope, no way. There's just no way I'm going to be able to do this. This ain't happening. We know differently now. And that ended up being the thing to resonate with me. I said, this is what I want to do. This is going to be, I think, the added layer.
What particular, like, because you mentioned, hey, you saw this thing, and then you're like, no way I can do this. Like, why did that resonate with you in that day? Was it something that happened like after you took class, or was it just like, what resonated about it?
A lot of things. I'd say that two things: the community, the amount of people that got behind you instantly. From the minute you walked into that door, the way I was greeted by the other athletes, by the other people that are working in that 6 a.m., the encouragement that they gave. But I didn't have to be able to do it. I was able to do the workout with everybody else at a level that was scaled to what I could do. The next day they were doing jump rope, so I couldn't jump rope at the time, but I could do jumping jacks, and I couldn't squat. That took a while, but we got a box out, and I was sitting on a box. So I could do the workout. I had a good benchmark. I was doing it with a group. Everybody made me feel good about my accomplishments. And there was a path on what I could do. And that's what kept me coming back. Matter of fact, I think I said to you I was only going to do 3 days a week
Mm-hmm.
when we first walked in. That changed to what, 4?
Mm-hmm.
And then 2 weeks later, it was every day, 5 days a
Yeah.
week from that point on, because I could come back the next day. And like when I tried the Orange Theory, I did the workout. I couldn't even walk the next day. So what kept me coming back, what stayed with me was I physically could come back. I could do more, and I felt good about what I was doing.
Yeah, that's something we hear often is the sustainability of training. And there's quite a few places, and some people get frustrated when they contact the gym and they're like, "Can I just try a class?" And it's like, no, like we need to talk a little bit and understand where you're at. Like before Joe started that first week, like he met me on Friday. It was a Friday, right?
It was a Friday.
Yeah, and we sat down for 45 minutes or so, an hour, and just we talked about what he wanted to do, where he wanted to go, and then how we would actually make that happen. And that's huge in the sustainability of training. Whereas if you just get dropped into something, if it's not adaptable or, tailorable to where you currently are, it's very difficult to stay at it, when you're getting back into something. So, so So yeah, so he came to our class on Monday, then he went to Orange Theory the next day, and then
That's right.
we have this automated email that's like, hey, we focus on just getting a little bit better each day, and he responds to it as like, hey, I did exactly the opposite of that and tried to do more. So, but what's cool is eventually he's coming to class every day, and like what I find, I don't know if this is a thing for you, but there's the physical benefit, but I think for many people nowadays, there's like the mental benefit of this kind of starts my day right. You come in the morning. When I first started CrossFit, I liked evening. I kind of like it as like my turn off point, right? So like I work through the day and then boom, it's the end. But either way, like there's a mental health component. I mean, is that something that it does for you?
Oh yeah. Starting the day off, already moving, feeling good, gets your energy up. I mean, whether it's the 5 a.m. or the 6 a.m., I would have been sleeping at that time. And also for me, I let the excuses get in the way really fast. And for me, the day can catch up. And then I would say, well, I can't make it today because this is going on with work, or I'm tired. I didn't sleep that good last night. Well, 5 a.m. I get up at 3:30. And for the 4 a.m. class, I get up at 4:30. I'm sleeping at that time. So there's no excuse to not be there. And that helped it become a non-negotiable.
Mm-hmm.
It said, there's no life, there's no in the way, there's no excuses in the way. I feel really good about how I feel the rest of the day after I go. So this is it. This is what works for me.
I love it. So Joe gets started, and I mean, can you tell us a little bit, like, because you had the first week where you came to our class, you went to the other one, you came back, a little bit beat up from it, right? But we still got you back into training. And when was it like, when did you have that moment? Because you did start with like 3 days a week, but when did you have that moment where you're like, no, I'm going to do this more? Like, what made you want to do that?
I was getting better at it, getting comfortable with it. I would say it would be more the mindset. I started to get to the point where when I wasn't coming, my mind was telling me, aren't we supposed to be at the gym? Yeah.
I've got a story about that when we're done here, but yeah.
So subconsciously, it was like, if I wasn't going, it didn't feel right. And then that's what made it. So I think it became an automatic routine, like getting up and going to work, or you got to get your kid at school at this time of day. You don't think about it. You just know at this time of day, I'm supposed to be here doing this thing. And I think it became more cultural. And then that's what made it easier to get to 5 days.
Man, that cultural, I wouldn't expect someone to use that word, but that's what we try to do. We understand that most people have a lot of inputs in their life, like work, family, social responsibility, like all those. And so it's cool that you use that word, because that's our goal, is that it becomes a part of your paradigm of life. Like it becomes a part of what's natural and normal. Whereas most of the time when anyone's starting training for the first time, it feels abnormal. Yeah. It's like, man, I got to make time for this and I'm sore. I haven't been doing anything. So it's like, I say all that's just cool that you use that word. So Joe started coming 4 days, 5 days a week, then started working with Melody,
Yep.
started working with nutrition. What made you want to do that? Like, cause I don't know if I've ever asked you like what actually triggered that you wanted to do that, but what made you want to work with her?
I'm an information guy, and
For sure.
yeah, I like to learn, and I like to know what I'm doing and make more educated decisions about what I'm doing. But here I am. We're doing the gym. I'm still seeing the doctor, but I'm still taking my medications, and I'm making those victories on the scale. I'm getting more energy through my day, but what else? What else can I do? I can do more, and I can get more information. And obviously, what I thought was good for me, that worked for me, anyways, for the gym, I found a better way that I resonated more. So, what about food and nutrition and my body? What more can I learn about that? And I think I'm eating right, but am I eating right? I mean, this box of oatmeal that I'm eating every day has a heart on it. I go back to those because I started eating, it was either oatmeal or Cheerios every day. And it was, how many calories are in this snack? And, oh, I better eat egg whites. Oh, my blood pressure's high. I don't want to eat that steak. Stay away from that red meat. And I had to question myself, do I really know if that's the way? And then we saw the nutrition workshop, came in for that one on Saturday, Melody's first one.
Yeah, it was back in April. Yeah.
In April. And I said, yeah, I'm doing it wrong. I need more information. I need to get involved because I think this is what I need.
Cool. And then it's been all downhill from there. Literally.
Like, literally. I mean,
well,
everything.
in a good way though, like accelerating in the right way, Well, the thing about that is, so we did this thing on Saturday in April. We actually just did another one this past August, and Melody, I mean, you guys, if you listen to the podcast, you've already heard her twice, but I mean, she's just brilliant. But this thing that she does, and she was kind of doing it to me before she ever came on as the coach, like just because she became a member, then she became a group CrossFit class coach, and then now she does nutrition for us. But she's been doing nutrition for years, There's just this like real gentle, like nurturing process that she puts you through, and then all of a sudden, like 2 months later, you're behaving differently. It's very interesting, and I don't know if I've ever met anybody who's as smooth and effective at making nutritional change. And then the way she educates you, like by the time she gets done talking, you're kind of like, yeah, it's like you said, you're like, yeah, I'm wrong.
Yes.
And she never points a finger at you and says it, but at the end of it, you're like, yeah, I know a lot about nothing.
You rethink everything.
Yeah,
right?
everything, man. So you start working with her, and what, because this is actually something that people tell us is, hey, and I just want your honest feedback on this. What people tell us is, man, it just feels like a lot of work to change my nutrition. Like it feels like it would be like really difficult to do all that. What was your perspective like when you came in, and how you felt as you first started working with her?
Going into it, you start thinking about, what am I going to lose, right? Oh, they're going to take this away. I'm not going to be able to eat this, and you start going down that negative road, the wrong mindset, and I'm focused on, well, I guess I'm not going to be able to have pasta anymore, and you just start thinking about all these coveted foods that you love that I ain't going to let these go. And you're thinking it's all going to be all cold turkey. And the way it was done was slow, gradual, educational. I mean, first she gets to know you. You fill out the questionnaires, and she talks to you about your goals. And you're not even really talking about what you eat. And you're learning the education behind the body and digestion and a lot of chewing your food. And so I think really what it made it really easy was the gradual process and baby steps and the knowledge on doing it. Because it changes the way you look at the food. Instead of looking at it and going, I'm hungry, You start questioning, why am I hungry? What am I hungry for? And you slow down. You're chewing your food, and you're eating the right foods. Like she uses calves, all gas, all carbs, all gas and no breaks, right? And so you just keep eating and keep eating and keep eating, and you slow it down. You chew your food. You're eating something that's nutrient dense. You're in tune with the signals, what your body is telling you, and you start eating those and you eat it slow. You're not hungry. You're not worried about your portion control. You stop wanting to eat. But it's a gradual process. It's understanding the food, how it makes you feel emotionally, how it makes you feel, alertness, energy, recovery from working out, sustainability for the day, not getting hungry. It sounds like a lot, but the way she does it, it's such a slow and gradual process that it's a much easier transition than I could never imagine that going into it. That it changed my preconceptions. It changed what I thought I knew. Oh, I know. You don't have to tell me, right? So I already got that. I already know that. And it changes the way you think. And the way I think now and what I thought I knew are completely different.
The reason I ask is because before Melody was formally the coaching members in nutrition, she kind of took me through the same thing. I just don't know if I really realized I was going through it, but I would ask questions and I would, ask a little bit about what, she thought about certain things. And, what's crazy was after a couple months of implementing some of the stuff she was saying and starting to focus a little bit more on the same things, I could actually tell, like, when I got to the end of the day, if I was hungry, like what I was hungry for. It was and I just remember it vividly for like a couple days in a row, being like, man, I'm hungry. And I was like, I can tell why. And that was the strangest yet most real moment where I was like, oh, like this is different than following a meal plan. And that's, I think, what most people think is they're like, oh, I'm gonna get this meal plan with a grocery list and everything. And then, but when you work with Melody, like you get to where it's like it's like intuitive because it's tuning up your body. It's like tuning into what your body's already telling you. So now you've been working with Melody. How long exactly?
5 months.
5 months.
5 months, right?
Tell us about, because this is the cool part, right?
Yeah.
Tell us about some of the changes.
Oh, geez. I mean, we only have an hour, right?
Yeah. So we only got like 20 minutes left. So
okay. The major changes is understanding a balance plate and how you're looking at your food at a balanced perspective and what it's going to do, and preparing for your day. So every time I look at food, I'm just looking at it with a purpose now, and having the understanding how to balance it, how much protein I should have, how much carb I should have, how much fat, and incorporating a whole lot more fat, making sure I have food prep in place to keep me on track when I travel, planning ahead where I'm going to eat, looking at the menu before I go there. Definitely the biggest change is confidently understanding what I'm eating, having preparation in place to keep those disciplines in place, and trying to avoid putting myself in distress, and trying to keep everything homeostasis, as she likes to say. And, over that time period, that's where the real impact came. Obviously, the meat and potatoes of this was immediately when I changed the nutrition. Within about 30 days, I started doing these workouts and I started to get lightheaded and I started to get dizzier and I started to get faint. And I'm like, well, what's going on? I said, I wonder if it's my blood pressure. I said, something's got to be going on here. And I would go to the doctor and he checked my blood pressure and it's 108/60. And
And that was while he was taking blood pressure meds.
Yeah.
So that was being pulled down.
It was being pulled down because I was eating better and I changed the foods and I took all that sugar out. And so just within the first 30 days of the 5 months, I started to see the impact. So we lowered the dosage. Less than 2 weeks after, it was too strong. Lowered the dosage again. And about 2-3 weeks after that, I mean, I was getting healthier faster than the changes in the medication. And so within like less than 60 days, that was off. That was gone.
I remember you telling me that.
Oh yeah, you did a little.
Well, you
video
told
on
me, it, and I was like, "That's exactly what I need to record."
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah. It just because I was dieting for 3 months before that. Oh, actually 5 months before that, no impact. It started to happen when. So I was exercising, the blood pressure wasn't going down. It's when I changed what I was eating. It's when it went down. So I started thinking, well, what else is this going to do? Right?
Isn't it cool? Dude, this is a phenomenon that most people go through is like you have these things that you've kind of adopted as normal, and over time you just accept as normal. And we're all living with these. Like even now, me and Joe, where we are today, we still have some. So as he's talking about breaking through these things, but what's cool is once you break through a barrier and make a change, normally you're like, well, what else can I change? Like it starts cascading. So I just like to say that. So it's cool. And so what was next?
So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna stop taking the heartburn. I shouldn't have this indigestion and this heartburn anymore.
Oh, so you took a medication for like acid reflux / heartburn? Okay.
And so I started playing around with that, and yeah. Okay, that's balanced out. So
off of that one,
we're doing good there. I said, all right, I can do this. I said, this works. This nutrition works. Go back to my doctor, and I'm seeing him. I'm like, hey, let's do labs. I want to get off this cholesterol thing.
Remember, Joe's the guy you don't tell no to. So once he decides yes,
I said, this is happening.
Let's
I said,
go.
my goal is to fix all this through food.
Mm-hmm. So what was the next big target?
So the next big target was to get rid of the cholesterol. I want off the statin, and I'm on 2 cholesterol meds. One's a statin, and the other one wasn't, but it was for cholesterol. I said, these got to go. And he goes, you can, but in my experience, when you get off these things, you'll be right back on them. So we're going to wait a while because it could take 6 to 18 months before we see anything. I said, all right, see you on month number 7 on this, because that's my annual checkup anyways. And there'll be 7 months of exercising, 5 months into the nutrition. And I said, I want to see if this thing moves. And that was my goal. I'm going to stay on plan. I'm going to read these books, and I'm driving towards this. My health is okay. It's good. It looks good on a scale. I mean, at this point now, I've lost the weight. I'm looking good. I'm feeling good. My muscles are getting stronger. My energy's good. I can stay focused better at work now. We'd go to meetings. I'm falling asleep by 10 o'clock on a PowerPoint. Now we have a meeting for 8-10 hours. I can stare at that PowerPoint, clear-minded all day.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's one of those unnoticed benefits until you're in it, right? Like you're like 3 months later, you're like all of a sudden I used to fall asleep during these meetings, and then boom, here you are. 100%.
Now if I'm falling asleep, it's just because he's boring. I don't.
You need to get better at presenting.
Yes, there you go. So, but that was the one. That's the one I wanted to get.
The cholesterol meds. We're going for it.
So lo and behold, 3 weeks ago now? No, 2 weeks ago.
It was 2 weeks.
Yeah, it was 2 weeks ago. It's time. I'm excited. This is the first time ever. I'm excited to do labs at a doctor. I'm like, come on, let's get to these things. Because it's the first time going into a test, I'm optimistic. For 15 years, I not only knew I was going to fail that test, it was going to be worse every time. I didn't want to go to the doctor because I didn't want to be told what I already knew. You're eating horribly. You got a fatty liver. Your triglycerides are going up. Your cholesterol is up. Your blood pressure is going up. It was a test you knew you were going to get an F on before you even got there. This was the first time I went there well over a decade saying, all right, here we go. Let's do this thing. Of course, they took the labs. I'm optimistic. And they come back good, Jonathan. I mean, they came back good. Not just on the cholesterol, but everything came back good. And it's the first time I got an A on a report card in a long time.
An A on a test that matters.
On the test that matters. And I know some of the measurables they go off of, probably not the right ones, but there's a lot of there that does matter. And I looked at that and I immediately said, I got back to him on the portal. I said, we got to talk. We got to get off this cholesterol meds. And so we're going back and forth. We do a portal call. He's looking at the measurables and he says, I told him, I'm going to stay on this nutrition plan. I'm going to stay with this exercise regimen. I know you got some concerns about when I get off, it's going to go back up. We certainly can come back in after a while and check again. I said, but I'm staying on this path that I'm on. It's working. And he says he feels comfortable enough with that decision that he removed all the last of my prescriptions. And then the next morning I wake up, instead of looking over and grabbing that pill caddy so you could take out your Monday, Tuesday, it's empty, man.
Let's go, dude. 15 years.
Take
like,
it anymore.
I don't think people under 15 years. And Joe tells this, how, what'd you say, your grandpa and your dad? Like there's the heart disease is history on my father's side of the family. Right.
Yeah. And it wasn't exactly close to that side of the family, but there's enough there. And then the males.
Yeah. So
heart disease and cholesterol was the thing.
And so when you have your doctor say, well, you know, it's in your history and I don't think we're going to be able to come off this stuff. And then you actually have that change. Like that's a big, we talked about paradigm earlier, but that's a big paradigm shift of what's possible, what's true, you know? I mean, I think there's probably people out there listening to this of like, they think the same thing of like, well, I've been told like, you know, this is hereditary, it's genetic, you know, all that type of stuff. Like the reality is, you know, if the labs say that it's not, it's not.
Yeah.
So
I understand that it might be a little bit harder because you're at a higher risk and you may not be playing with the best hand. But just because it's harder doesn't mean you can't get there. And we're just talking 5 months of nutrition. Wait till I go back next year.
Yeah. And actually, speaking of a year change, you said at the very beginning that the reason you actually started last December was because you went on a trip, you were winded, you couldn't sleep, or you couldn't swim and all that stuff, right? But you just went on a trip like a month ago or so.
Oh, yeah.
What was the difference between the trip a year ago and the one you just went on?
Polar opposite. So, you know, we went on the Disneyland Death March, as you call it, because you walk, 10 miles a day on those. But it was like being a kid again. I'm just powering through that. The park. As a matter of fact, it was hot. It was really hot.
Was it Texas hot?
No. But
this was in July or early August. Which one was it? End of July or early August?
This was August.
Yeah, it was hot here.
Yes. And even the family, they had to go back to the hotel and rest. They were done. They were jet lagged. It was the second day. I said, all right, I'm going back. And I went back to the park myself. Never ran out of energy. And I could power walk and go through it. Wasn't getting winded. Didn't have to sit. I have my energy back. And you can feel it. So definite polar opposite. And that's almost a year.
Not even. Yeah. We're talking about 10 months.
Yeah.
I love when Joe tells a story because there's people that are like in a place that it's taken a long time to get to where they are, and they sometimes underestimate what could be done in a year if you really do the right things. Because and that's what we talked about earlier is like with the nutrition, like we joke, though this is a serious problem, is there is no regulation of marketing in food. There's no regulation of it. And so when there's a box of Cheerios that says heart healthy on the side of it with a picture of a heart, there's this bias of the authority, which is if we think someone is an authority, then we will automatically accept it. So if the American Heart Health Association is saying on the side of a box of Cheerios that it's good for your heart, we're more likely just to believe it, because the difficulty is, are you actually going to do the research or the testing to find out if it is or not, right?
Right.
And so there's people that like they believe they're either doing the right thing or they just believe they're so far down a certain path that they couldn't go the other way. And so that's why it's really powerful, why we want people like Joe to share here, because something you don't know about Joe is he's just the guy that he's going to keep doing a really excellent job at what he does for work with his family. He's probably not one unless I ask him to get on here to talk, to the public, but he'll definitely talk to everybody that walks inside the gym. And there's people out there in the world that you may never come to Hazlet, Texas, but you need to know what a year can do. And you need to know that there are some things out there that you think they're truth today, but they're not true. And truth is relative to where you are today, but true is like timeless. So there are certain things out there that we hold as truth, but it doesn't mean that they are true. And whenever you're living based on something that you think is truth, but it's not, and you said it earlier, is you said some things you knew, some things may have been accurate, and some things were just plain wrong, right? And so that's why it's important to hear this type of stuff. I mean, anything else you want to share about changes you've experienced?
I think I covered. I mean, it's just positive. You feel good.
You look good, man. Like the color of your skin, the way you look. Like I remember meeting you, and like from what you look like now to when I first met you, like there's just a lot of things.
You care more.
Mm-hmm.
It's, my wife brings it up, and she doesn't know I'm on, so But, so watch the podcast. Hi. But when you've given up, and I gave up, you get to the point where you're so overwhelmed, especially when you've had success and failure.
Yeah, the yo-yo. That's hard.
Yo-yo. And the yo-yo gets worse, right? You lose the weight, and not only you put it on, but you put on more.
Yeah, it's usually like this.
Yeah.
It gets the ups and downs get larger.
You get to the point where, well, I should say I got to the point in my case that you quit. So when you talk about the skin looks better or engaging people, yeah, I'm on Facebook all over now. You guys can't get rid of me now, but
Love it.
And my physical appearance and stuff, I care about it now. And so that's part of it too. Not all of it's 100% nutrition, but it's related because the amount of confidence that you gain, the emotional positives that you gain, you want to do more on everything in your life. You bring it home, you bring it to your friends, and you start investing in yourself more again. And no matter how bad it gets, and even if you do quit and you don't think you can turn it around, it just takes one push and that one step forward. In that case, it was a friend who told me I can't and told me I was going to fail. It wasn't the threat of having a heart attack. It wasn't the nights that it should have been. It wasn't the nights where I'm going, geez, am I going to be around to see my daughter get married? That should have been enough. And am I going to be there for my wife? And when my daughter goes to college so we can do stuff together. And can I? I can't even walk around Disneyland without getting winded. So it's weird where the push will come from and what it is. But when it comes, that's all it takes. Mm-hmm. And the gains you get far outweigh what you might have to give up because you're getting on a nutritional diet. That's for sure.
Yeah. I'm stuck on this concept right now is that, unless we draw in a future pain and make it very real, it normally takes a present pain to change. So the present pain being the friend saying, you're not going to succeed with that attitude. Like if you're going to start on New Year's, you're not going to do it at all. And that was a pain where you're like, it was like a hit on your character, right? But those other pains, like the daughter, the wife, those things, those are future pains. And unless we bring them present and really sit in them, they don't move us. But it's interesting. It always takes normally some sort of pain causes us to move. The question is, are we just living passively so that pain shows up on our front door? Or are we willing to look at our lives and look at where we're at, where we're going, and understanding what that could mean, and that being the thing to change? So, sorry, that was my rant. Thanks for listening. Welcome to my TED Talk. So, Joe, last, before we hop off, man, anything else you want to say to the people?
You can do it. You definitely, if you're in my situation and you're just getting one medication after another and it's not working, you feel that it's too hard, it's too overwhelming. It's just one step. It's never too late. You're never too old. And you can just get out there and it can be done. I promise you, if I can do it, you definitely can.
Love it. All right, guys. This is the Joe McLaughlin. Love it. Thanks for joining us, man. That was gold, dude. I mean, listen to this one a couple times. Thanks again for sharing the whole story. As always, just like I said, subscribe, share it out, get the message out. Because at the end of the day, we want to help you guys own your life so that, Joe said it, so that you can, go on your trip the next year and it be 100% different, man. We want you guys to have the best. So thanks again for tuning in. We'll see you next time.